another tutorial with the Essentials Club. If you're new around here, I am Maddie and welcome. Today we are going to be diving into how to thrift flip an old men's shirt into this cute halter neck dress. It's got a big open back section with an elastic waist, and then pretty much we just chop up the sleeves and clean off the edges. I think it's quite a simple upcycle process to turn something quite daggy into something super cute. I'm really happy with how this number turned out. It's not something I would normally wear, as I don't really wear open backs because I have quite a bit of back knee scarring. I'm a bit self-conscious about that, but I'm trying to get over that, so I need to wear more things like this and just embrace it. So if you want to follow along in upcycling an old men's shirt into a cute halter neck dress, this is what you'll need to get started. Obviously we will need a button-up shirt. Ideally we want it to be enough length so when you wear it, it already goes down to the spot where you want it to. If for some reason you can't find one that doesn't reach that ideal length, that's totally fine. Mine didn't actually either, and I ended up adding some of the offcuts to the bottom to get it to that ideal length. Likewise, if it happens to be quite oversized, we'll end up taking it in. Ideally you don't want it to be too tight fitted either, so try and find something that's like a happy medium and kind of is longer than a short top, if that makes sense. So once you have your top, you'll then need some elastic, enough just to cover your back section, some matching thread to the shirt, some fabric scissors, measuring tape, some pins and a safety pin, fabric chalk, as well as it might be handy to have a seam ripper, as I needed to cut off the pockets of the front here as I ended up cutting into that. And then you'll need your trusty old sewing machine. So now that you have all of that, let's jump into the steps of making this dress. For step one, we're just going to throw on the shirt and figure out how much we need to take it in so that it's kind of snug but not too tight. So once you've figured that amount, turn it inside out and just sew down the side seams. You might find that it might look a bit weird because obviously the sleeves are intact at the moment, so just kind of ignore that part and move in and kind of start from where the underarm section is and just sew down that amount for the side seam. Then just use your seam ripper to remove any pockets that might get in the way. Once you've got it all fitting a little bit snugger around the hip and waist area, we'll then throw it on one more time and start to plot out the points where we know we want to cut. I mean, personally, I didn't want to have too much side boob, so I popped a pin in a place where I felt comfortable. So for me, I was about 1 inch from that collar, and then marked out down here where I knew I didn't want too much side boob to show, and then I pretty much just knew to stick as close as I could to that bottom of the armhole. We'll then lay down the shirt, grab our fabric chalk, and plot out those points to create that armhole that we'll be cutting on the front. The line that I drew is actually this final point that you see now, so when I went to cut, I just remembered to cut 1 inch away from that for seam allowance. The priority is just to figure out this shape on the front, and then once we get to those side points, we'll literally just cut straight across on the back from there. So for me, it was pretty much cutting from underarm to underarm point on the back. It's boring. For the next step, we're then going to flip it inside out and fold all these raw edges to create one single hem line. So pin that in place, and then once you're ready, we'll sew one line entirely all around this area. Once we've got that first hem in place, we are then going to prepare the elastic to add into the back section. So pull the elastic across your back so it's kind of a little bit tight but not too stretched out, and it reaches where these side seams will meet. We'll then trim it at that point, and we're going to attach it to this back side now. So align it to the back edge about 1/2 inch from the top so that we have enough room to sew it when we fold the final hem, and then align the edge of the elastic to one of the side seams. Just sew either on a zigzag stitch or a regular stitch one line down there so it sits on top of that, and then reach it over to the other seam and again sew it in place there so that it is attached to the sides of the dress. We're then going to finish off the hemming process and again just create another fold. It'll just be like a regular, maybe 1/4 inch around all this front section, and then we need to create a fold big enough for the elastic to be covered in. Obviously now that we have the elastic in there, that means that it is going to be bunched up in areas, so what I did is just kind of pulled it flat at each point that I was focusing on, pinned it in place and then did that again and kept pulling along. Once again, we'll just sew that all in place. When I was doing the bunched up back section, I actually had to just backstitch, remove the fabric and just kind of move the bunching out of the way and then restart so that I'm focusing on the flat area. So did that for the back bit, regularly sewed all around this front bit, and essentially if you had a top that was already the length that you want it to be, you should have a new dress now. But if you're like me and you need to add a bit of extra length, what I did is I grabbed my measuring tape and measured the circumference of this bottom area, and then used this bit that we cut off the back to cut a heap of strips to then patchwork to create a panel that was big enough to add onto the bottom of this dress. So once I'd cut that out, joined them to create one long panel, and then just laid it good sides facing on the bottom of here. I even folded it so that it created a bit more of a tunnel rather than having to hem it later. So if you're like me and didn't need to add too much, you could fold it like that and add a strip, or you could just add one section and then you'll need to hem that bottom so it doesn't fray. So once you have got that final hem in place, it might be good just to throw it on one last time and make any adjustments. If you find that it's gaping around the side here, you can add a dart point in there, which will help shape it to your body a bit more. I ended up having to take it in at the waist just a little bit to help be more snug around that area. Go around, trim any overhanging sections and zigzag stitch or overlock the edges that you think might fray, and then you have yourself a cute halter neck dress. I feel like this would be so cute with like some 60s, 70s style white boots and like a little headband piece. So I need to go find something like that to pair with this. So I hope you enjoyed this idea of turning a daggy old button-up shirt into a cute halter neck dress. If you did happen to follow along this tutorial, I hope it all made sense, and if it did, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends, as that really helps me to grow this channel and continue making these tutorials. Wherever you are, I hope you have a lovely day, and I will see you guys in the upcoming videos. Time to go enjoy my new dress.